everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Thokozani Mabena. Thank you so much for joining me. To my new subscribers, welcome to my little family. I appreciate it. V, thank you so much for retweeting my tweet. If you're watching this, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your kindness is absolutely out of this world. Today's video is a book review. I know I've delayed creating this content for the longest of time, but it just didn't quite feel right. And I tried filming this video yesterday, but it just was not connecting. Like, nothing was coming together. I was not feeling well. The baby was just all over the place, and really just myself articulating myself, I was struggling. So this is my second attempt, well, second day, but yesterday I had like 10 attempts. Anyway, the first book we are going to get into is Do Not Settle for Safe by Sarah Jakes Roberts. I would absolutely suggest that you get the book for yourself and really just experience it for yourself. I think it has certainly reminded me of a lot of important things that I needed to work on in myself, and I think it's very funny. I got this book on my birthday this year, but I had been wanting it for the longest time, and I think I just wasn't quite ready. And even when I got it, I didn't get into it until about 3 months later. I created one of the videos I posted here on my channel about forgiving yourself, and after literally creating that video, it was always in my head to go and read this book, and I didn't know why, but now I understand why. Books go with energy, and I think when you're ready for something, you will yearn for it, and that was what happened with me. So I don't want to waste a lot of time. The book has about 10 chapters. I'm going to call them chapters, and it deals with many different topics. So the first one, she says, no more excuses. I've got my notepad here to remind me of the things that she has said, and maybe share my perspective or how I've applied it in my life. In one of the sentences here, well, she first congratulates you for making the decision that it's time for you to be free. And she says, nothing has happened to you that God can't use to restore you. And she says that you'll think of everything you've been through that felt absolutely unnecessary. In that moment, while I was reading that sentence, I thought of the things that I had personally gone through, that I was just like, I mean, I've witnessed other people go through this. It was absolutely unnecessary for me to go through it, but sometimes you need to go through things yourself to get the full idea or the perspective. Maybe it'll change your perspective a bit, maybe it'll make you understand a bit more, I don't know, but some things you just need to go through yourself to understand, and some things you don't have to go through yourself to understand and see them. You can learn from someone else's experience. And one of the other things that came to mind to me when I read this and I saw it, it's like, you know, one of those little puzzles. It's got like maybe 500 pieces, and then there's just this one piece, and you feel like it's black or it's blue, it's just one solid color, and you're like, but it's so unnecessary. Like, it's unnecessary to the picture. But once you've put the entire thing together, you realize that it wouldn't become what it is had you not gone through that. So she also talks about understanding how things that you have been through, positive and negative, have impacted, how they've impacted you and your decision making and who you are today. And with negative things, I think we tend to hold on to negatives a lot more than we do positives. Those things are the things that shape us, and we feel like, okay, it's reason enough for me to be the type of person that I am. So she's like, go back in time, go back and confront that and understand why that happened and how it impacted you and the type of person you are today, and just start there. The second chapter, she talks about finding our weeds. What she basically says here is that examine your heart, examine yourself, examine your insecurities, learn your issues, your expectations, your disappointments, projections, and how you treat people. And when you understand how you treat yourself and what your issues are, and how your insecurities impact you as a person and how you view other people, you'll understand that a lot of times how you treat people is how you feel, and how you feel you've been tricked, how you feel you've been treated, or how you feel you've been, I don't know, cheated of something. A lot of the times where people are always just so up and ready to highlight your shortcomings or the things that you lack and things that they feel that you can't do. It has a lot to do with how they feel with themselves. So people project. So when you work on yourself and you work on working like on getting yourself to become a better person. Because if you think in life you've not done someone wrong, or you've not done, we've all, she says here, we've all done something wrong in someone else's eye. And that is mainly because we all have different perspectives, we all have different personalities, and because of those two things we all have different opinions. You could do the most sincerest and most beautiful thing and it could still offend the next person, and that's mainly because we are different as people. But I think the one thing that we can do to get better as a society and as families and as friends is to always work at your heart and work at yourself and understand yourself. And when you feel like you're not enough, or you don't feel like, don't put that burden on someone else's hand, because you end up then burdening other people that, oh, but I couldn't do 1 2 3 and yet she can, oh, so she thinks because she's 1 2 3 she's better than that. And it's not like that. Some people just generally do things out of the goodness of their hearts, and it could be very offensive to the next person. I think if it's in your heart to do better for yourself and for others, you'll work at your heart. And once you see how well you treat yourself, when you love yourself and when you respect yourself and when you're kind to yourself, you want to experience the same thing with the next person. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but yeah, here she says that examine yourself to the point where you literally break yourself down and you find out what toxic traits you have and what good things you have and how you impact other people. And once you learn to love yourself and protect yourself, you'll find it so much easier to do that to the next person. And then the third part, she says, learn your patterns. So what she basically says here is assess your decision-making patterns and your foundation. Who you are, the things you're involved in, the things that you're not involved in, the things that you do and how you treat people is based on your decision making. If your decision making foundation and patterns are solid and they are, they are rooted from kindness and love and faith and wanting to do good, you will make the patterns, your decision making patterns will be much more better and much more positive, because that's your train of thought. So when you make decisions based on fear, based on insecurity, based on on hurt, a lot of the things that you do will absolutely reflect that. So understanding your patterns and understanding how you make decisions, that means, again, going back to the first chapter, going back in time and understanding what certain things that happened and how they impacted you, and understanding how you could learn moving forth, and just really confronting your demons will help you moving forward and in making decisions. Because guys, life is so short. Life is so short and life is so painful already. I think we need to get in the habit of making decisions, of wanting to bring out the goodness in ourselves and in other people's lives. And yeah, it all starts with your foundation, really. So work on yourself before you look at somebody else. The fourth one, she says, know your roots. Here she's like, unfortunately, whether or not we want to admit, we absorb the environments we grew up in. So a lot of the things that you grew up in, personalities, perspectives, projections that your elders had towards themselves, towards other people, and towards you, are things that you often grow up in. You either become exactly the same person or the exact opposite, or you take parts of that and they're exactly the same, or you try to fix that and you become that person that's always constantly trying to fix things, because back then you felt things were just all over the place. So knowing your roots and knowing how someone else's behavior has impacted you and choosing what you want to take moving on will bring you so much peace, guys. I think you're a fool if you think that the environment you grew up in and the people you grew up under did not have an impact on you. I think at the end of the day, it only has to do with your heart and what you want to do with your life and how you want to move forward. And that's basically what chapter 4 talks about. And she says, confronting that and looking to understand to correct them is understanding your insecurities, all their insecurities and pains, how they've dealt with that and how they've had to maneuver with what they had. And this goes back to my video where I talk about forgiving our parents. There are a lot of things that happen, when you grow up, and your parents are human beings, and your parents have their opinions as well. And you also grow up to understand yourself, and you have a different perspective and idea. But if we do not get to a point where we want to learn each other and understand each other and communicate with each other, and we're just so focused at tearing at one another apart, we're never going to get anywhere in life. And what has what was meant to break you will stand to break you if you do not look to repair it, and if you do not look to work on a relationship. And unfortunately, you cannot work on relationships if all you want to focus on is what the other person did to you. You have to get to a point in your life where you're like, you know what, I see what they did to me, but what did I do? Is there anything that I could have done that would have hurt that person? And if so, what do I need to do to correct it moving forward? It's so easy, guys. We find it so easy to point fingers, and we think that, you know what, I'm like the most perfect thing. Like, oh, I did 1, 2, 3 because she did 1, 2, 3. Girl, if you cannot allow yourself to get to a point where you assess yourself and you're honest with yourself and you show yourself, you know what, I fucked up in this 1, 2, 3, then you'll always have that anger with you, because you'll see everyone else having done wrong, but forgetting the fingers, the 3 fingers that are pointing back at you when you're pointing the other finger. So that's what it is. The 5th part was probably my favorite part of the book, because that's where she talks about frenemies. Okay, now I don't want to say frenemies, I'm just going to say friendships. I think more than anything, this for me was a reality this year. I felt like I found myself feeling very alone, and also transitioning. Even when you feel like you have people around you, there are certain relationships that you are going to grow into and out of, and not necessarily because the next person is a bad person, but she has a love letter here to a friend, and she talks about how sometimes it's not in your benefit to keep that friendship going. And she's like, were we friends because we actually wrote that, are they friends of convenience or friends worth investing in? And she says that friendships created from having similar anxieties, fears, and insecurity have the potential to produce more of those emotions. Now, when you're trying to get better at your life and you're trying to get rid of anxiety, you don't want that around you. But that does not mean you cannot be there to support your friends or to have them support you. But the thing is, when you create a platform for your friendships to feel comfortable, to talk about those things and to work through those things and to carry your friends through those things, but also having, you know, a place in your friendship where it's like, okay, I see all of that happening. What can we do to move forward? What can we do to do this? Are you doing this and that? Are you to support friendships? So our friendships based on just fun, going out, you know, being young and free, or our friendships based on, you know, always talking about the sad parts of our lives, or our friendships a balance of all those things. And I, for me personally, could say that I found myself representing both sides of the coin, because there are certainly friends that I think feel like I'm holding them back, because a lot of the time, especially this year, it was a lot of anxiety and a lot of sadness and a lot of, you know, being down and out, and that's literally sometimes all I could really talk about, because I felt like there was nothing positive. And then when it came to them, it's like, oh, this and that is happening in my life. I'm like, okay, that feels so great, because you are moving forward and you're accomplishing. It's you know, it's encouraging to see that. And then I was also the other friend that felt like, you know what, I don't feel like this friendship benefits me anymore. I don't think that I'm gaining anything that builds me within this friendship. So I was definitely the friend that got left behind, and I'm definitely the friend that left somebody behind. And when you get to a point in your life when you can be very honest with yourself and honest with the people around you, you'll find it so much easier to maneuver, because you'll understand that you are a person, you have your flaws, you have, you know, your mistakes, you have opinions that, you know, some people are absolutely against. Like this girl, I think she's against my opinion right now. But it's learning to embrace one another and embracing our differences and respecting differences. People often always expect you to understand and respect their opinions and to accept who they are and what they are, but they find it very difficult for you. You know, they find it very difficult to extend the same courtesy to you. So the friendship part of this book was, it hit home. Like, she reprimanded me, but she also encouraged me. And I think if I had the money, I would buy this book for all of my friends. So this is me telling all of my friends and just anyone to go buy this book. It's really one of those books where you're like, oh no, oh no. You're like, oh yes. And you're like, oh my gosh, oh no. You know what? I don't want to read this book. Oh no, I love this book. But yeah, that's the friend. And she talks about life testing friendships and circumstances happening. And I recently had a conversation with one of my friends where she absolutely made me realize that at a time that she felt she needed us the most, none of us had friends. Yet here I am preaching that, but I failed to do that for her. So the more you grow up, the more you realize that friendship goes beyond just, little cute dates, sitting down talking about boys or dream about big houses. It goes down to talk about real life stuff. Are your friends there when you need them the most? Are your friends there when you feel depressed? Are your friends there to support you when there are funerals at home and stuff like that? Are your friends there? Are your friends your pillars of strength? Are your friends your what do you call them, comedians? Are your friends your Oprah Winfrey? That's what you need from a friendship. And friendships are they're becoming very hard to come by, where you can actually sit down and have a genuine friend who will keep what you guys have within you, between the two of you. But be a better person so you can be a better friend. And then she talks about loyalty. There are 3 types of loyalties. I'm just going to highlight them. I'm not going to go into details with them because I think that's a totally different video. But the first one says there are people who are loyal to your position for social status. And then there are people who are loyal to your presentation, loyal to who you present yourself to be, but not truly who you are. And then there are people who are loyal to who you are, but please note that the people who are loyal to who you are does not mean that will be with you for your entire lifetime. So in assessing your friendships, think about that. The 6th point says, forgive and remember. If this does not ring true, I said it in my last video. There are people that do things to you and then ask for forgiveness, and then they do it again, and then they ask for forgiveness, and then they do it again, but you keep getting hurt. So when you forgive people, so you let go of the hurt, but you need to always remember it for life lesson purposes. So always be very mindful. Forgive people wholeheartedly. Like, absolutely forgive people wholeheartedly. Do it for yourself, do it for your mind, do it for your soul. Talk about it and move on, but always remember, so you know a person's character. I'm just gonna leave it at that. The 7th point, she says, connecting with God, and that's literally where I stop, because I think the next 3 parts it's really just about the relationship you need to have with God. And that's a very personal one. I don't think anyone can ever tell you how to communicate to your God if you do believe in God, or how to communicate to a higher power than you. But having a relationship with something that is much more inside of you than outside will help you a lot when you seek to heal yourself, and when you seek to make better decisions for yourself, for your people around you, and for the rest of your life. So under here, she talks about knowing God as your friend, knowing God as your confidant, your provider, and knowing God for God and not knowing God for religious purposes. Like, when you know God as your friend and as your comforter, or as just a person having a personal relationship with God and just doing it for yourself, you will find it much easier to maneuver in life and making decisions that are best for you and your life and the people around you. Because I think when we spend so much time thinking about what the next person is thinking, or how the next person is, working with God, we end up losing sight of what God is telling us to do with our lives. God communicates with us very differently. There are rules are rules, but God tells you what to do with your life, and you absolutely know when you have wronged someone. You absolutely know when you've done wrong. You absolutely know when you've done right. Projecting and giving someone else the responsibility of working on yourself and doing right and apologizing and working on the relationship that you need to work on is not going to make life easier for you. So watch out for yourself, work on yourself, and do what's good for you. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this. I will see you next time. I hope I didn't power through a lot through this video, but yeah. Thank you. Bye.